stop scrolling, because the coins in your pocket could be worth thousands. From the mysterious 1965 Washington quarter to the rare 1970 D quarter that collectors hunt for worldwide, some everyday coins hide incredible value. In today's video, we're uncovering the top 5 extremely rare Washington quarter dollars, their hidden history, shocking auction prices, and how to spot one before anyone else. Check your change. You might already own a small fortune. Let's dive in. 1965 Washington quarter dollar coin. To understand why the 1965 Washington quarter is so important, we have to travel back to the early 1960s. At that time, the United States was experiencing a growing coin shortage. Vending machines, parking meters, and everyday commerce depended heavily on small change. Yet coins were disappearing from circulation faster than the mint could produce them. The problem was largely caused by the rising price of silver. For decades, American dimes, quarters, and half dollars had been made with 90% silver. As silver prices increased, people began hoarding these coins, realizing the metal itself was becoming more valuable than the face value stamped on them. By 1964, the situation had become serious. Banks were running out of coins, and businesses were struggling to make change. The United States government needed a solution that would allow coins to remain in circulation without being hoarded for their precious metal content. The answer came in the form of the Coinage Act of 1965, one of the most significant legislative changes in modern numismatic history. This law removed silver from dimes and quarters entirely and reduced the silver content in half dollars. For the quarter dollar, the change was dramatic. Instead of being struck from 90% silver, the new coins would be made from a copper-nickel clad composition. These new quarters had a pure copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of copper and nickel. The result was a coin that looked similar to the old silver quarters, but contained no precious metal. The first year of this new composition was 1965, making the 1965 Washington quarter the very first clad quarter ever produced for circulation in the United States. That alone gives the coin an important place in American coin history. Despite the major change in metal composition, the design of the coin remained the same. The familiar portrait of George Washington continued to appear on the obverse. Sculptor John Flanagan had originally created this design for the Washington quarter's debut in 1932, commemorating the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth. On the obverse, Washington faces left, his hair tied back in a traditional 18th century style. The word liberty stretches boldly across the top of the coin, while the national motto "I in God we trust" appears just to the left of Washington's neck. The date 1965 sits at the bottom of the coin beneath the portrait. One detail that collectors immediately notice about the 1965 quarter is the absence of a mint mark. In an effort to discourage coin hoarding during the national coin shortage, the United States Mint made the unusual decision to remove mint marks from coins between 1965 and 1967. This meant that quarters produced in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco all appeared identical, with no letter indicating their origin. The reverse of the coin features one of the most iconic designs in American coinage. A powerful eagle stands with wings fully extended, clutching a bundle of arrows in its talons. Beneath the arrows are olive branches symbolizing peace. Above the eagle appears the Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. The words United States of America curve along the upper edge of the coin, while the denomination quarter dollar is displayed along the bottom. Even though the design remained unchanged, the new clad composition created a visible difference along the edge of the coin. Unlike silver quarters, which appear uniformly silver in color, clad quarters reveal a thin copper-colored stripe along the edge. This copper core quickly became the easiest way to distinguish new quarters from older silver ones. The United States Mint produced an enormous number of 1,965 quarters in order to address the nationwide coin shortage. More than 1.8 billion quarters were struck that year, making it one of the highest mintage figures for the Washington quarter series at the time. Because so many were produced, the vast majority of 1,965 quarters found in circulation today are worth only their face value. However, collectors know that within this massive mintage lie important varieties, rare errors, and exceptionally preserved examples that can be far more valuable. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1965 quarter involves the possibility of transitional silver errors. When the mint switched from silver to clad composition, the production process still contained leftover silver planchets from 1964. In extremely rare cases, these silver blanks were accidentally fed into the coin presses and struck with 1965 dies. The result was a 1965 quarter struck in 90% silver, something that technically should not exist. These transitional error coins are among the most valuable modern quarters ever discovered. Only a small number of authenticated 1965 silver quarters are known today. Because they are so rare, they command astonishing prices whenever they appear at auction. One example graded in high mint state condition sold for more than $7,000. Experts believe that additional undiscovered pieces may still exist in private collections or forgotten coin jars. Another area of interest for collectors involves mint errors created during the striking process. The high-speed production environment of the 1960s meant that occasional mistakes were inevitable, and these errors can make certain 1965 quarters highly collectible. Off-center strikes are one example. This occurs when the coin blank is not properly centered between the dies when the coin is struck. The result is a design that appears shifted to one side, leaving part of the coin blank. The value of these coins depends on how dramatic the misalignment is and whether the date remains visible. Clipped planchets are another interesting error seen on some 1965 quarters. This occurs when the metal blank is improperly cut from the sheet of metal before striking, leaving a curved section missing from the coin. When struck, the missing piece forms a distinctive crescent shape along the edge. Die cracks and die breaks also appear on certain examples. These occur when the steel dies used to strike coins develop fractures from repeated use. The cracks transfer onto the coin's surface, creating raised lines that can run through letters or across the design. Collectors also look for double die varieties, which occur when the die receives multiple impressions during its creation that are slightly misaligned. This produces visible doubling in parts of the design, such as lettering or numbers. While dramatic double dies are rare for the 1965 quarter, minor examples do exist and can add value for collectors interested in die varieties. Another factor that influences the value of a 1965 Washington quarter is condition. Because billions were produced and circulated heavily during the coin shortage, most surviving examples show significant wear. Coins that remain in mint state condition are much scarcer than the original mintage might suggest. Mint state coins are graded on a scale from MS60 to MS70, with higher numbers representing better preservation and fewer surface marks. A typical uncirculated 1965 quarter graded around MS63 or MS64 may sell for $10 to $20. Coins graded MS65 can reach $50 or more depending on eye appeal. The real excitement begins with extremely high-grade coins. Examples graded MS67 are quite rare because clad coins are prone to contact marks during production and storage. When a coin survives in nearly flawless condition with strong luster and sharp details, collectors compete aggressively to obtain it. Auction records show that some MS67 examples of the 1965 quarter have sold for over $1,000. These coins represent the finest surviving specimens of a historic first-year clad issue. Collector interest in the 1965 quarter also comes from its position within the broader Washington quarter series. Many numismatists attempt to assemble complete sets of Washington quarters spanning from 1932 to the modern era. Because the 1965 coin represents the beginning of clad coinage, it holds special significance within these collections. It marks the moment when American coinage transitioned away from precious metals and toward more affordable industrial materials. The coin also serves as a historical reminder of the economic pressures faced by the United States during the 1960s. Rising metal prices forced the government to adapt, demonstrating how even small coins can reflect larger economic trends. Another reason the 1965 quarter remains popular among collectors is the possibility of discovering rare examples in everyday circulation. Unlike older silver coins that were quickly removed from circulation by collectors, clad quarters continued to circulate widely for decades. This means that valuable high-grade examples or unusual mint errors may still be hiding in coin jars, bankrolls, or pocket change. Coin roll hunting has become a popular hobby largely because of coins like the 1965 quarter. Enthusiasts search through rolls obtained from banks hoping to find rare varieties, pristine uncirculated coins, or dramatic mint errors. While the odds of finding a transitional silver error are extremely small, the possibility continues to inspire collectors to keep searching. Over time, the Washington Quarter series evolved into one of the most recognizable and widely collected coin programs in American history. In 1976, the design briefly changed to celebrate the nation's bicentennial, and in 1999, the popular State Quarters program introduced new reverse designs representing each state. Yet the classic Washington portrait and eagle reverse of the 1965 quarter remain symbols of a pivotal moment in U.S. coinage. For collectors and historians alike, the 1965 Washington quarter is far more than just a piece of change. It represents a turning point when the United States Mint redefined the composition of American coins and ensured that everyday money could continue to circulate despite rising metal prices. And perhaps most exciting of all, it reminds us that even the most common-looking coins can hold remarkable stories. Somewhere in a forgotten jar or tucked away in an old drawer, a rare 1965 quarter could still be waiting to be discovered. The next time a quarter passes through your hands, take a closer look at that simple date. Because behind the familiar portrait of George Washington lies a coin that changed American money forever. 1966 Washington Quarter. In order to understand the 1966 Washington Quarter, we have to step back into the mid-1960s, a turbulent time for American coinage. By 1964, the United States was facing a massive coin shortage. Silver prices were rising rapidly, and people began hoarding coins that contained precious metal. Dimes, quarters, and half dollars minted before 1965 were made of 90% silver, and as silver prices climbed, the metal inside the coins began approaching the value printed on their faces. That meant millions of coins disappeared from circulation as people saved them or melted them down. The U.S. government had to act quickly. In 1965, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965, a law that fundamentally changed the composition of American coins. For the first time since the 1700s, quarters would no longer contain silver. Instead, they would be struck in a new copper-nickel-clad composition. The coin would still appear silver in color, but inside it would have a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel alloy. The 1966 Washington Quarter was produced right in the middle of this dramatic transition period. Another unusual decision made by the U.S. Mint during this time was the removal of mint marks. Normally, coins struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco carry a small letter indicating their origin. But from 1965 through 1967, mint marks were intentionally removed to discourage collectors from hoarding newly minted coins. Officials believed that if collectors could not identify which mint produced a coin, they would be less likely to save them. Because of this policy, every 1966 Washington Quarter appears identical regardless of where it was produced. No mint mark appears anywhere on the coin. The obverse design of the 1966 Washington Quarter carries the familiar portrait of George Washington, a design that first debuted in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth. The portrait was created by sculptor John Flanagan, based on a bust of Washington originally sculpted by French artist Jean-Antoine Houdon in 1786. Washington faces left, his expression calm and dignified. The word liberty stretches across the top of the coin in bold capital letters. Beneath Washington's chin appears the motto, "In God We Trust," while the date 1966 rests neatly along the lower rim. Even though the design remained unchanged, the new clad composition gave the coin a slightly different feel and sound compared to earlier silver quarters. When dropped on a table, a silver coin rings with a bright metallic tone. A clad quarter produces a shorter, duller sound. Turning the coin over reveals the iconic reverse design. A powerful American eagle spreads its wings across the center of the coin. The eagle stands proudly on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and military readiness. Beneath the arrows sit two olive branches representing peace. The inscription United States of America curves along the top edge, while the denomination quarter dollar appears along the bottom. Between them sits the national motto, E Pluribus Unum. Although the design is common to collectors today, It represents one of the most recognizable images in American numismatics. The 1966 Washington quarter was struck in enormous quantities. Official records show that more than 821 million quarters were minted that year. This massive mintage was part of the government's effort to flood the economy with coins and end the nationwide shortage. Because so many were produced, most 1966 quarters are extremely common in circulated condition. Millions are still found in pocket change, coin rolls, and old collections. However, collectors know that mintage numbers alone do not determine a coin's value. Condition, rarity, and high grades, and mint errors can dramatically change what a coin is worth. In circulated condition, a typical 1966 Washington quarter is worth about its face value of 25 cents. Some lightly circulated examples may sell for $1 or $2 simply because collectors like to keep examples from every year. But the story becomes much more interesting when we look at uncirculated coins. Coins that never entered circulation and still retain their original mint luster are graded by professional grading services using a scale from 1 to 70. A perfect coin receives a grade of MS-70, although very few coins ever reach that level. For the 1966 Washington quarter, coins graded around MS-63 to MS-64 are relatively easy to find and usually sell for between $5 and $15 depending on eye appeal. Once the grade climbs higher, the value increases quickly. Coins graded MS-65, considered gem uncirculated, often sell for $25 to $40. But extremely well-preserved examples graded MS-67 can sell for several $100s. In fact, one exceptionally preserved 1966 Washington quarter graded MS-67 Plus has sold at auction for over $8,000. That price shocked many collectors and proved that even coins with massive mintages can become incredibly valuable in top condition. The reason is simple. While millions of coins were produced, very few survived with flawless surfaces and strong original luster. Beyond condition rarity, the 1966 Washington quarter is also famous for a number of fascinating mint errors. One of the most exciting errors involves quarters struck on silver planchets intended for earlier coins. During the transition from silver to clad coinage, a few leftover silver blanks from 1964 were accidentally used in 1965 and 1966 coin production. A 1966 quarter struck on a silver planchet is extremely rare and highly desirable. The easiest way to identify one is by examining the edge of the coin. A normal clad quarter shows a visible copper stripe along the edge. A silver planchet coin has a solid silver-colored edge with no copper layer. When authentic examples appear at auction, they can sell for several $1,000s. Another dramatic error type is the double die variety. In these coins, the design appears slightly doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process. Collectors often look closely at the lettering of Liberty or I in God We Trust for signs of doubling. While not as famous as the doubled dies of earlier decades, certain 1966 doubled die quarters still attract significant collector interest. Off-center strikes are another collectible error. These occur when the coin blank is not perfectly aligned in the striking press, causing part of the design to be missing. Depending on how dramatic the error is, off-center 1966 quarters can sell for anywhere from $50 to several $100s. There are also clipped planchet errors, where part of the coin's edge appears missing due to a mistake during the blank cutting process. These unusual shapes are highly collectible. Perhaps the most dramatic error of all is the wrong planchet strike. In rare cases, a quarter design might be struck onto a blank mint for another coin, such as a nickel or foreign coin. These mistakes are extremely rare and can command thousands of dollars when authenticated. For collectors building Washington quarter sets, the 1966 issue holds an important place in the timeline. It represents the second full year of clad coin production and one of the years without mint marks, making it unique within the broader series. Collectors often search through rolls of quarters hoping to find high-grade examples with sharp details and brilliant luster. Because many 1966 coins entered circulation immediately, pristine examples are harder to locate than the large mintage suggests. Another factor that increases collector interest is the historical moment the coin represents. The mid-1960s marked the end of circulating silver coinage in the United States. The 1966 Washington quarter stands as part of the first generation of modern clad coinage that replaced centuries of precious metal currency. For many collectors, owning one is like holding a piece of that transition in American monetary history. Today, millions of 1966 Washington quarters still circulate quietly through the economy, often ignored by the people who spend them. Yet among those ordinary coins may hide an uncirculated gem, a rare mint error, or even the elusive silver planchet variety. That's what makes coin collecting so exciting. Every coin tells a story. Every year of minting carries a unique chapter in history. And sometimes, the most valuable treasures are the ones that millions of people overlook. The next time you receive a quarter in change, take a closer look. Check the date. Examine the edge. Study the details. Because that small coin in your hand might not just be 25 cents. It might be a hidden piece of American history waiting to be discovered. 1967 Washington quarter-dollar coin. To fully understand the importance of the 1967 Washington quarter, we need to step back just a few years earlier. In the early 1960s, the United States began facing a serious coin shortage. Demand for coins had increased dramatically due to the growth of vending machines, laundromats, parking meters, and other coin-operated services. At the same time, the rising price of silver caused many Americans to hoard coins because their metal value was approaching or even exceeding their face value. For decades, dimes and quarters had been made from an alloy containing 90% silver. As the price of silver climbed higher, collectors and the public began removing these coins from circulation and saving them for their metal content. By 1964, the situation had become so severe that banks and businesses were struggling to maintain enough coins for everyday transactions. The United States government responded with the Coinage Act of 1965, a major reform that forever changed the composition of American coins. The act removed silver from dimes and quarters entirely and replaced it with a new copper-nickel clad composition. This new structure used a solid copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper-nickel alloy, creating a coin that resembled the old silver version but contained no precious metal. The 1967 Washington quarter belongs to the early years of this new clad coinage era. It was part of the government's effort to flood the economy with enough coins to end the shortage and discourage hoarding. But the changes didn't stop with the metal composition. In order to further discourage collectors from hoarding newly minted coins, the United States Mint made a surprising decision. From 1965 through 1967, mint marks were temporarily removed from all circulating coins. This meant that the 1967 quarter carries no mint mark at all, even though coins were produced at multiple mint facilities including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The absence of mint marks makes these coins unique within the Washington quarter series. Normally, mint marks help collectors identify where a coin was produced, but during this 3-year period the government wanted coins to appear as uniform as possible. Despite these changes, the design of the Washington quarter remained the same classic artwork introduced in 1932. The obverse features a dignified left-facing portrait of George Washington. Sculptor John Flanagan created this design to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth, and it quickly became one of the most recognizable coin portraits in American history. Across the top of the coin appears the word Liberty in bold lettering. To the left of Washington's neck sits the national motto, "In God We Trust." The date 1967 is placed at the bottom of the coin, centered beneath the portrait. Washington's hair is tied back in a traditional colonial style, reflecting the appearance commonly seen in 18th century portraits of the first president. The details of the hair and facial features provide collectors with subtle clues about strike quality and die condition when examining high-grade coins. The reverse of the coin features a powerful heraldic eagle with wings spread wide. The eagle clutches a bundle of arrows in its talons, symbolizing strength and readiness to defend the nation. Beneath the arrows are olive branches representing peace. Above the eagle appears the Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. Surrounding the upper rim of the coin are the words United States of America, while the denomination quarter dollar curves along the bottom edge. Even though the design remained unchanged, the new clad composition introduced a distinctive visual feature. If you look at the edge of a 1967 quarter, You can see a thin copper-colored stripe between the outer layers. This copper core is the easiest way to distinguish clad quarters from older silver ones, which appear completely silver along the edge. The United States Mint produced an enormous number of quarters in 1967 in order to solve the national coin shortage. More than 1 billion Washington quarters were struck that year. With such a massive mintage, most examples are extremely common and remain worth only their face value in circulated condition. However, the true excitement for collectors comes from rare varieties, unusual mint errors, and exceptionally preserved examples that survive decades of circulation. One of the most fascinating possibilities associated with the 1967 quarter is the existence of transitional metal errors. When the mint switched from silver to clad composition in 1965, leftover silver planchets from earlier production occasionally remained in the system. In extremely rare cases, these silver blanks were struck using newer coin dies. While most of these errors occurred in 1965, collectors continue to watch for unusual weight differences in later coins like the 1967 quarter, just in case any similar transitional pieces exist. Mint errors are another major source of collector interest. During the high-speed coin production of the 1960s, mechanical issues sometimes resulted in coins with striking abnormalities. One example is the off-center strike. This occurs when the planchet is not properly aligned with the dies during the striking process. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing and the remaining portion appears shifted to one side. Off-center quarters that still show the full date can command strong premiums from collectors. Another interesting error involves clipped planchets. These occur when the metal blank used to create the coin is improperly punched from the metal sheet. The resulting coin displays a curved missing section along the edge that forms a distinctive crescent shape. Clipped planchet coins are highly visible and popular among collectors of mint errors. Die cracks and die breaks are also seen on some 1967 quarters. These occur when the steel dies used to strike coins develop fractures from repeated use. As the damaged dies continue striking coins, raised lines appear across the surface of the coin where the cracks were located. Sometimes these cracks grow into larger breaks known as cuds, where a piece of the die actually breaks away. Coins struck with these damaged dies show raised blobs of metal near the rim where the missing die section allowed extra metal to flow. Collectors also search for doubled die varieties. These occur when the coin die receives multiple impressions during its creation that are slightly misaligned. The result is visible doubling on lettering or numbers. While dramatic doubled die examples are rare for the 1967 quarter, subtle varieties do exist and remain of interest to specialists. Condition is another major factor in determining the value of a 1967 Washington quarter. Because these coins circulated heavily during the late 1960s and beyond, most surviving pieces show significant wear. Coins in circulated grades typically remain worth only their face value. However, uncirculated examples with strong luster and minimal marks are far more desirable. Mint state coins are graded on a scale from MS60 to MS70. A typical uncirculated 1967 quarter graded around MS63 or MS64 may sell for $10 to $20 depending on its visual appeal. Coins graded MS65 can reach values between $30 and $50, especially if they display bright original luster and sharp design details. The real rarity begins with coins graded MS67 or higher. Because clad coins are prone to contact marks during minting and storage, achieving such a high grade is extremely difficult. These near-perfect coins display exceptional surfaces, minimal blemishes, and strong strikes. At major coin auctions, examples of the 1967 Washington quarter graded MS67 have sold for hundreds and sometimes over $1,000. These coins represent the finest known survivors of a year when billions were produced, but very few remained flawless. Collector interest in the 1967 quarter is also fueled by its place within the Washington Quarter series. Many collectors aim to assemble complete sets of these coins spanning decades of American history. The 1967 coin represents the final year of the no mint mark period and marks the end of the government's anti-hoarding strategy. Beginning in 1968, mint marks returned to American coinage, once again allowing collectors to identify the origin of their coins. For this reason, The 1967 Washington quarter stands as the closing chapter of an unusual three-year experiment in United States minting history. Beyond its historical significance, the coin also appeals to modern treasure hunters. Because so many were produced and circulated widely, it remains possible to find examples in pocket change or old coin jars. Coin roll hunters often search through bank rolls of quarters hoping to find unusual mint errors, high-grade examples, or interesting die varieties. Even though most coins found are ordinary, the possibility of discovering something rare keeps the hunt exciting. The Washington quarter itself has evolved significantly since 1967. In 1976, the reverse design temporarily changed to celebrate the bicentennial of American independence. Decades later, the United States Mint launched the famous State Quarters program, followed by the America the Beautiful series. Yet the classic Eagle reverse and Washington portrait of the 1967 quarter remain symbols of a pivotal era when the nation adapted to economic challenges and reinvented its circulating coinage. For collectors, historians, and everyday observers, the 1967 Washington quarter is a reminder that even the most familiar coins carry hidden stories. Behind its simple appearance lies a chapter of American history shaped by economic pressures, technological change, and the determination to keep commerce moving. And perhaps somewhere out there, quietly waiting in a forgotten drawer or coin jar, a rare high-grade example or unusual mint error of the 1967 Washington quarter is still waiting to be discovered. The 1969 D Washington quarter dollar coin. The Washington quarter itself had already been an American classic for nearly 4 decades by the time the 1969 D version was struck. The design first appeared in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. What began as a temporary commemorative coin quickly became the permanent design for the quarter dollar denomination. Created by sculptor John Flanagan, the portrait of George Washington facing left became one of the most recognizable images in American coinage. By 1969, the United States was in the midst of significant change. The late 1960s were a period marked by political tension, social movements, and rapid economic shifts. Coinage itself had recently undergone one of its biggest transformations. Just a few years earlier, in 1965, the United States Mint eliminated silver from circulating dimes and quarters due to rising silver prices and coin hoarding. Prior to that change, quarters had been struck from 90% silver and 10% copper. But beginning in 1965, a new clad composition was introduced, consisting of a copper core sandwiched between 2 outer layers of copper-nickel alloy. This change dramatically altered the appearance and feel of American coins. Instead of the bright white shine of silver, quarters now had a slightly duller tone and displayed a copper-colored stripe along the edge when viewed from the side. The 1969 D Washington quarter was part of this new generation of clad coinage that would dominate circulation for decades to come. The obverse of the 1969 D Washington quarter features the classic left-facing portrait of George Washington. His hair is tied back in a colonial-style queue, reflecting the artistic interpretation of Washington commonly seen in early American artwork. Above his head appears the motto, "In God We Trust," while the word liberty arches prominently across the top of the coin. The date 1969 sits at the bottom beneath Washington's bust, and just to the right of the ribbon in his hair appears the small D mint mark, indicating that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. The reverse design continues the patriotic theme. A powerful heraldic eagle dominates the center of the coin, wings spread wide in a proud and commanding stance. The eagle clutches a bundle of arrows in its talons, symbolizing the nation's readiness to defend itself, while olive branches beneath the arrows represent peace. Above the eagle appears the national motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. Surrounding the upper edge of the coin are the words United States of America, while the denomination quarter dollar is displayed along the bottom rim. While the design remained largely unchanged for decades, subtle details in strike quality, die wear, and mint production created important differences between coins of different years and mint locations. The 1969 D quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, which was responsible for producing billions of coins to meet the demands of commerce across the western United States. In total, The Denver Mint produced approximately 114 million Washington quarters in 1969. This number places the coin firmly in the category of common circulation issues. Because so many were produced, most examples found in circulation today are worth only their face value of 25 cents. However, as with many coins, the real story lies not in the average circulated pieces, but in the rare conditions, unusual minting errors, and exceptional preservation levels that attract the attention of serious collectors. One of the key factors that determines the value of a 1969 D Washington quarter is its condition. Coin grading plays a central role in modern numismatics, with professional grading services evaluating coins on a scale from 1 to 70. Coins graded in the mint state range, meaning they show no signs of circulation wear, can command significantly higher prices than their worn counterparts. For the 1969 D quarter, most surviving examples show moderate to heavy wear due to decades of circulation. These coins passed through countless hands, cash registers, and vending machines, gradually losing the sharp details of the original design. As a result, high-grade examples are much more difficult to find than one might expect from the large original mintage. Collectors particularly seek out coins graded MS65 or higher. At this level, the coin retains strong luster, minimal contact marks, and well-defined design details. A 1969 D quarter graded MS65 can sell for several dozen dollars, while coins graded MS66 or higher can reach prices exceeding $100 depending on eye appeal and market demand. Another factor that increases the desirability of certain 1969 D quarters is strike quality. Because quarters were produced rapidly to meet demand, some coins were struck with less pressure than others. This can result in weaker details, especially on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers. Collectors value coins with strong, sharp strikes because they represent the finest examples of the minting process. In addition to condition and strike quality, mint errors provide another layer of excitement for collectors searching for valuable 1969 D quarters. During the minting process, coins occasionally emerge with unexpected flaws that transform them into unique and collectible pieces. One such error is the off-center strike. This occurs when the planchet is not properly aligned with the coin dies during the strike, causing part of the design to be missing while the rest appears shifted to one side. Off-center quarters can vary in severity, with some showing only slight misalignment and others missing nearly half of the design. Depending on the degree of the error, these coins can sell for anywhere from $50 to several $100s. Another fascinating mint error involves clipped planchets. This occurs when the blank metal disc used to create the coin is improperly cut from the metal sheet, leaving a curved section missing from the edge. When the coin is struck, the missing section creates a distinctive crescent-shaped gap. Clipped planchet quarters are popular among error collectors because the unusual shape is immediately visible and unmistakable. Die cracks and die breaks also appear on some 1969 D quarters. These errors occur when the metal dies used to strike coins develop fractures after repeated use. As the dies continue to strike coins, the cracks transfer onto the coin's surface, creating raised lines or irregular shapes. While minor die cracks are relatively common, larger die breaks known as cuds can significantly increase a coin's collector value. Another collectible variety, sometimes associated with late 1960s coinage, involves double die errors. These occur when the die used to strike the coin receives multiple impressions during its creation that are slightly misaligned. The result is a doubling effect visible in certain parts of the design, such as lettering or date numerals. While dramatic double die varieties are more famous on other coins, subtle doubling can occasionally appear on Washington quarters from this era. Beyond mint errors, the 1969 D Washington quarter holds interest as part of a larger historical transition in American coinage. The removal of silver from circulating coins changed the way collectors viewed modern coinage. Many people saved older silver quarters while spending the new clad versions, leading to a situation where earlier silver coins became increasingly scarce in circulation. Ironically, this meant that coins like the 1969 D quarter remained widely circulated for decades, experiencing far more wear than earlier silver issues. As a result, truly pristine examples are surprisingly scarce today. Another aspect that attracts collectors to the 1969 D quarter is its role in complete Washington quarter date and mint sets. Collectors building full sets from 1932 onward need examples from every year and mint location. While the 1969 D is not among the rarest dates, high-quality examples remain important for collectors striving to assemble top-grade collections. Professional grading populations show that relatively few 1969 D quarters have achieved grades of MS67 or higher. Coins at this level display nearly flawless surfaces, exceptional luster, and razor-sharp design details. Because of their rarity, such high-grade examples can command prices in the thousands of dollars at major coin auctions. Auction records have shown that top-condition 1969 D quarters graded MS67 have sold for several $1,000s when competition among collectors is strong. These sales demonstrate how condition can transform an otherwise common coin into a prized collectible. The story of the 1969 D Washington quarter also highlights the importance of careful coin examination. Many valuable coins are discovered by collectors who take the time to study their change with magnification and proper lighting. Small details such as die cracks, unusual doubling, or striking errors can easily be overlooked by the untrained eye. Coin roll hunting has become a popular hobby partly because of coins like the 1969 D quarter. Enthusiasts obtain rolls of coins from banks and search through them, looking for rare varieties, high-grade specimens, or unusual errors. While the majority of coins found in these searches are ordinary, the occasional discovery keeps collectors motivated. The Washington Quarter series itself has undergone many changes since 1969. In 1976, special bicentennial quarters were introduced to celebrate the 200th anniversary of American independence. Decades later, the design evolved again with the introduction of the 50-state quarters program in 1999, followed by the America the Beautiful quarters. Despite these newer designs, the classic Washington quarter remains one of the most beloved coin series in American history. Coins like the 1969 D serve as reminders of an era when the United States Mint was adapting to economic challenges while maintaining the timeless imagery that Americans had come to recognize. For collectors, the 1969 D Washington quarter represents more than just a piece of pocket change. It reflects a moment in time when the nation transitioned away from precious metal coinage, embraced new minting technologies, and continued producing billions of coins for everyday commerce. And perhaps most exciting of all, it reminds us that valuable discoveries can still happen. Somewhere out there, in an old coin jar, a forgotten drawer, or even a handful of change from the grocery store, a pristine or unusual 1969 D quarter might still be waiting to be found. The next time a quarter passes through your hands, take a closer look at the date and the tiny mint mark beside Washington's portrait. That simple coin might carry a hidden story of history, craftsmanship, and collector fascination that has been quietly traveling through American pockets for more than half a century. This is the fascinating history, value guide, and collector story behind the 1996 D Washington quarter. 1996 D Washington quarter. The 1996 D Washington quarter represents the closing chapter of a long-running American coin design that had dominated the quarter-dollar denomination for more than 6 decades. By the time this coin was minted, the Washington quarter had already become one of the most familiar pieces of currency in the United States. Yet behind its everyday appearance lies a fascinating story of historical continuity, minting technology, and modern collecting. The Washington quarter design was first introduced in 1932, created to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington. The coin's design came from sculptor John Flanagan, who based his portrait on a famous bust of Washington created in 1786 by French sculptor Jean-Antoine Houdon. What began as a one-year commemorative design proved so popular that it permanently replaced the standing Liberty quarter. By 1996, the Washington quarter had been in circulation for 64 years. The coin had already survived multiple historical eras including the Great Depression, World War II, the Cold War, and dramatic changes in American coin composition. One of the most important transformations occurred in 1965 when the United States eliminated silver from circulating quarters. Rising silver prices had caused widespread hoarding, forcing the government to adopt a copper-nickel clad composition. From that point forward, quarters were made with a pure copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel alloy. The 1996 D Washington quarter follows this clad structure. When viewed from the edge, a thin copper stripe can be seen between the outer layers. This feature clearly distinguishes modern quarters from their earlier 90% silver predecessors. The D Mint mark on the 1996 coin indicates that it was produced at the Denver Mint, one of the major coin-producing facilities of the United States Mint system. The Denver Mint has been a central hub of coin production since 1906 and continues to produce billions of coins annually. In 1996, the United States Mint struck an enormous number of Washington quarters to meet circulation demands. The Denver Mint alone produced approximately 906,868,000 quarters bearing the 1996 D date. This massive mintage means the coin is extremely common in circulated condition. Yet collectors know that a coin's value is not determined by mintage numbers alone. Condition, preservation quality, and minting characteristics play an enormous role in determining what collectors are willing to pay. Examining the design of the 1996 D Washington quarter reveals the same classic imagery that defined the series for decades. On the obverse, George Washington faces left in a dignified and calm pose. The word liberty appears boldly above his head, while the phrase "I in God we trust" is positioned just to the left of his neck. The date 1996 sits along the lower rim, with the small D Mint mark appearing just to the right of Washington's ponytail. This mint mark is one of the first details collectors check when examining the coin. The reverse of the coin features a majestic eagle with wings outstretched. The eagle clutches a bundle of arrows in its talons, symbolizing strength and readiness to defend the nation. Beneath the arrows rest two olive branches, representing peace. The words United States of America curve along the top of the coin's reverse side, while the denomination quarter dollar appears along the bottom. Between them sits the motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. Although the design remained largely unchanged throughout the Washington quarter's long history, subtle variations in strike quality and surface condition make certain coins far more desirable than others. When discussing the value of the 1996 D Washington quarter in fine condition, collectors are referring to a grade typically described as fine or F12 on the standard coin grading scale. In fine condition, the coin has clearly seen circulation but still retains moderate detail in the design. Washington's hairlines are visible though somewhat worn, and the eagle's feathers on the reverse are partially visible but softened by years of use. Coins in this condition are common and usually valued close to face value, typically around 25 cents to $1 depending on demand and overall appearance. However, as the condition improves, the value begins to rise significantly. Coins graded in extremely fine condition display sharper details in Washington's hair and more defined feathers on the eagle's wings. These coins may sell for several dollars. But the real collector interest begins when we reach uncirculated examples. An uncirculated 1996 D Washington quarter shows no signs of wear and still retains its original mint luster. The surfaces appear bright, reflective, and crisp. Coins graded MS63 to MS64 are relatively common and typically sell between $5 and $10 depending on eye appeal. When the grade reaches MS65, known as gem uncirculated, collector demand increases. Coins in this grade often sell between $15 and $30. The most valuable examples are those graded MS67 or higher. These coins are incredibly well preserved with nearly flawless surfaces. Because very few coins survive in such pristine condition, auction prices can climb dramatically. A top-graded 1996 D Washington quarter graded MS68 has sold for well over $1,000 at auction. This may surprise many people who assume modern quarters cannot be valuable. Yet condition rarity can transform even common coins into significant collectibles. Beyond high-grade examples, the 1996 D Washington quarter is also known for a number of interesting mint errors. One of the most collectible error types is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin blank is misaligned in the press during the striking process, causing part of the design to be missing. Depending on how dramatic the error appears, these coins can sell for $50 to several $100s. Another popular error is the clipped planchet. In this case, part of the coin appears to be cut away due to a mistake during the blank cutting process. These curved or straight clips create unusual shapes that attract collector interest. Double die errors are also occasionally found. These occur when the die used to strike the coin receives multiple impressions during its creation, causing slight doubling in the design elements. Collectors often examine the lettering in Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date for signs of this doubling. Strike-through errors represent another fascinating variety. These occur when a foreign object such as grease or debris becomes trapped between the die and the coin during the striking process, leaving unusual marks or missing design elements. Each of these errors adds uniqueness to the coin and can dramatically increase its value. Collector interest in the 1996 D Washington quarter also comes from its historical position in the series timeline. Only 2 years after this coin was minted, the United States Mint introduced the famous 50 state quarters program in 1999. This groundbreaking series replaced the traditional eagle reverse with rotating state designs and sparked one of the largest coin collecting movements in American history. Because of this transition, coins like the 1996 D Washington quarter represent the final years of the classic Washington design before the series changed dramatically. For many collectors assembling complete Washington quarter sets, the 1996 D issue is an essential piece of the puzzle. Roll searchers often hunt through bank rolls of quarters hoping to find high-grade examples that escaped heavy circulation. Even today, some brilliant uncirculated coins still appear after decades of being stored away in coin jars or forgotten collections. The appeal of this coin lies not in its rarity in circulation, but in the challenge of finding exceptional examples that survived with minimal wear. And that is one of the most exciting aspects of modern coin collecting. A coin produced by the hundreds of millions can still become valuable if it survives in near-perfect condition. Every tiny scratch, every mark, every year spent in circulation affects the final grade and the value collectors assign to it. The 1996 D Washington quarter reminds us that history doesn't always hide in ancient artifacts or rare treasures locked away in museums. Sometimes it sits quietly in a pocket, a cash register, or a jar of loose change. A simple quarter that once traveled through grocery stores, gas stations, and vending machines across America. Yet within that small piece of metal lies decades of history, craftsmanship from the United States Mint, and the possibility that one well-preserved coin might be worth far more than 25 cents.